It's been a while since we heard about Wagner fighters. I mean, there was a lot of hype behind Wagner, especially with the whole Ukrainian conflict. But one thing about Wagner that we have to remember, it's a business, and there's a lot of money to be made in these contracting companies who are providing security. Now, Wagner is providing security in Mali. And for those of you who don't remember, there was Mr. Prigozhin, the guy who crashed with his plane, and a lot of people say Moscow did it. He was promising to free Mali, to bring peace to Mali. The only issue with that is, ever since Wagner got involved with Mali, things have gone downhill, not only for the civilians of Mali, the government of Mali, but also with Wagner. In this video, we're going to be talking about how Wagner fighters have actually been targeted and ambushed. And the thing about this is that Wagner is a highly prized possession to militant groups in the region. Sort of like how Navy SEALs were targeted in the Middle East, like going after a Navy SEAL is a badge of honor. You have these hit lists from militant groups in the militant East. But as far as in the country of Mali, these militant groups despise Wagner because they consider them an outside entity who has nothing to do with the Sahel region, which is in Africa, where Wagner is operating in. But more or less, they're the number one deterrent from stopping these rebel groups from actually expanding in Mali. Now, Wagner Group does whatever it takes to try stopping these rebels. The only issue is no one really knows what the state of Wagner is. We could assume about a year ago, Wagner was at its height. They were very powerful. They were making a ton of money. They even managed to kick the French out of Mali, which means they had political power. They had economic power. They were the link between Mali to Russia. This is why Niger and Burkina Faso sort of followed suit with their coups, because there was a promise in working with Mother Russia. Now, here's what the issue is. Now you have Wagner fighters being ambushed. You have Wagner fighters who are failing the mission in Mali. And Wagner, of course, is not going to be reporting on this. You're not going to be hearing about this in the media. You sort of have to dig very deep and check out the underground news sources when it comes to Mali, because Mali right now is falling apart. The reason why this is relevant to anything is that if Mali falls apart, Burkina Faso falls apart, Niger falls apart, you have this domino effect of countries falling apart. And for the United States, they're sort of smack dab in the middle of this, where they're trying to be as peaceful as possible, yet, unironically, the equal partner of Wagner in the United States, they're trying to fight the same people. So instead of working together, we're still mortal enemies. We'll never work with Russia and Wagner in Africa because we have different motives in the region. Nonetheless, let's check this clip out and see what Wagner's doing and how they're operating in Mali. And I'm telling you right now, things are getting worse and worse in the region.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Mali right now is going... I can't play the audio on this clip, but I gotta be careful about some of this. You have jets being captured in Mali. You have tanks being captured in Mali by rebel groups. These are the same people that the U.S. military... This is who we're fighting. The issue is the U.S. military cannot fight in Mali. We don't have jurisdiction there, and Mali doesn't want to work with the U.S. military. They want to work with the Russians. Now, I can't think of a time where rebel groups were just walking around countries, capturing jets, and also shooting down aircraft. And so let's actually go ahead and look at the overall report of what exactly happened, and I'll show you these clips. And so pretty much what happened is you had these rebel groups that are operating in northern Mali, what's called the Timbuktu region. sure you've heard of Timbuktu, and I think there was a cartoon about that. There was an attack that started around 3:30 p.m. Several armed groups, militant groups, attacked 2 defense forces camps in Timbuktu. Now, the reason why this is all relevant is because you have the Russians who promised peace and cooperation in Mali. We're going to defend Mali, when action and violence has actually increased in the region. A lot of it. It's getting worse and worse. And again, if you're watching this live, please like this live stream. It helps out a ton. I would love to push out these news stories so people can actually learn something other than what's happening in Europe. The fight lasted 2 hours before the militant groups came to take control of both camps. And we actually have video of these groups in these camps walking around freely. The 2 reinforcement aircraft were hit by enemy weapons. One crashed quickly, and the other made a forced landing. They also managed to destroy a Chinese MRAP. During the occupation, the assailants refueled the military equipment. They even fixed some vehicles before they left with it. And the latest left the camps early this morning. So breaking down this operation, this is a very technical and good group at what they do. I'm not saying they're good. I'm saying they're good at what they do. They were able to control a military base. They were able to capture equipment. They were able to counter an ambush. And they were also able to take out Malian aircraft. They were also able to take out a Wagner fighter. Now, Wagner fighters are not like these superheroes that we like to perceive, that they're like these unbeatable people. These are just fighters who fight under the banner of Wagner. But nonetheless, we have clips here of these guys just walking around freely. Hopefully we can see that. Again, remember, they were able to refuel their vehicles. They were able to fix their vehicles. If you're able to do that after a battle with no quick reaction force or QRF coming at you, Mali's in a really bad place right now, and that's supposed to be Niger's savior. That's supposed to be their helper. Good Toyota truck there. You always got Toyota trucks in the background. What's up with that? Okay, and the other big part of the story is this. Not the jet. I can't play the audio on this clip, but we can show you a little bit. You have Wagner fighters who were ambushed. A coordinated attack on a Wagner fighter positions. So now all of a sudden you have Russia in the mix of all of this. You have violence increasing. And I've showed this chart before. This is a very interesting chart that shows that ever since Wagner got involved with Mali, it's one of my favorite charts because it goes to show you what happens with coups. This chart, red going up is violence, blue going down are international community members leaving. So the UN, the French, Sahel partners. Ever since Wagner in 2021 arrived, you can see an uptick in attacks and violence. You also have Wagner fighters who were caught on footage burying enemies, allegedly. September 16, 2022, Malian soldiers and Wagner mercenaries attack a village of their own people. Now, when you scroll down to the good side of everyone leaving, Junta expels the Danish Special Forces, who are a great fighting force. The junta refuses German military flight clearances. The junta bans broadcasts, so the French can't even broadcast what's going on. Egypt suspends activities. The junta announces that it will suspend all Minmusa troop rotations. Notice the chart is going down. The more they leave, 12,066 troops by the end of 2023, a 43% decrease. 97% increase in violent actions within Mali. I foresee this being terrible for Niger, considering that that's supposed to be their big partner. Mali, of course, is going to downplay this and act like nothing bad is happening. Not the case. It's getting worse and worse. You have videos like this surfacing all over Twitter and Reddit. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with Mali. It's a hard story to cover considering you can only get the underground news about it. Wagner is playing this off like everything's going okay. Russia is trying to partner with Mali in an economic way and trying to nudge Burkina Faso to allow them to partner with them. T-SPLY, thank you for the $2 donation. I appreciate you. Also, please, guys, like the live stream. It helps out a ton. Love you guys. Thank you so much for the donation. Yeah, I foresee this being the ultimate opening for the French forces and ECOWAS to go into Niger. Ultimately, this is what is happening. I think it's a bad thing that Mali is suffering to these bad guys. That's why the United States is there in the Sahel, and that's why other big military superpowers are in the Sahel. But it opens the door for Nigeria to start an attack. Mali and Burkina Faso are covering the flanks of Niger. Benin doesn't have a direct route to the capital, so that only leaves one option, is Nigeria. All right, and that's essentially what's happening with Mali. It's crazy. Camps being captured. That's a South African truck right there. That's an RG.